So welcome to March Power Hour. Thank you all for joining us. I am Tessa. I live outside Indianapolis, Indiana. So it is spring here officially, but it's not too springy. We can't still scrapbook. So, and I'm joined by Megan. She's out on the West Coast and she will go second. So we're going to do two layouts tonight. We're going to warm up a little bit simpler with mine. And then Megan has hers looks has high impact design. So I'm sure it's pretty simple also once she walks us through it. So we are going to flip down to my table and there's my table. So it is true. I've had a very busy week and sometimes we have very busy lives and we need easy scrapbook layouts to help us with a little bit of simplicity. And so I actually had a couple of ideas and none of them came through in this. Actually, I changed it several times before when I got my final version. I ended up using the decorative trimmer, pretty simple little 1-cut, 3 pieces of paper on top of the base paper. So some of the design really is in the paper that you choose and a little bit of design element. So for this one, I know some of you are like, I use more than 2 pictures. You have room to have more than 2 pictures, but for the sake of showing where pictures could go, obviously it fits too nicely if you want to be peekaboo. But if not, you have a wide open space, you can obviously cut down quite a bit of photos for this one too. So for each side that you want to make, you need a base paper. I do recommend something fairly tonal, or you could use cardstock. A little bit of a subtle print adds to the layering of designs. It was not intentional that Meg and I both use birds and blossoms in our layouts. I suspect it's because we both have the collection open and next to our desks, and it is really pretty watercolor theme. And I like that doesn't have pinks. It's very bluesy greensy, which is fun too. So, and then you don't have to have full sheets of paper, but you need at least a 3-inch strip for each side for the base of your border we're going to make, and then a contrasting piece of paper. And so I would look for a print and I would look for a tonal, something that has some contrast between them, because whatever you choose to put in the bottom is going to have to really pop through. So you don't want necessarily 2 prints on top of each other unless you really have some definitive edges to the coloring against them. And then for the short piece down here, it's just 4x8 on each side. Again, another tonal or something that will pull the 3 prints together. So when I chose my base paper, I went light. And so I knew I wanted to use a striped print. And so then I chose a dark for the wavy print. And then I chose the complementary color is green for this one. And then I ended up using one of the little laser borders. So for tonight, I'm actually going to stay in the springy world and collection. So when all else fails and you have a busy week, it never hurts to just pull out some cat pictures. I also have plenty of cat pictures at the ready to scrapbook. And these actually were in the summertime. And I did not want to scrapbook them with just pet papers. I like to sometimes just use seasons. It's a reason to use up some of the collections that we have. And so I pulled out this print. This is from NSD 2 years ago, right? This is 22. Last year was lemons 2 or 3 years ago. But it has the bees and the flowers, which would go well because some of the cat pictures end up being outside, although maybe not the ones I've used tonight. But also looking through my photos, I have a lot of green in them. And so when choosing paper, what do you want to pull out of your photos? I obviously like green's my favorite color and I have a lot of plants and you can see my green chair. And so the green will complement nicely with the blues. And they're mostly on the carpet, so it's neutral. You don't want to choose papers that are going to contrast too much of your print. So I started at this. So I recommend choosing the print first when you're choosing your paper, like what do you really want to pop through, and then build from there. And then I chose my base paper. So I went through, I chose this blue, which is actually from Spring Medley. It's a tonal paper, so I have that blue. And then I have to decide, what paper am I going to use to contrast my print when I do my little swell cut. And so I went through my greens. You could go a few different directions pulling colors out of your prints. Just look at your print, what colors do you have? I went through my greens and I pulled out one. I think this is Lily Pad that I will use for the border. And then when choosing my complementary color, you probably can't tell too much on camera, but there are little daisy flowers here. So I have a little yellow or just a little bit of a neutral. And so then I went through, I have a folder of just yellows and I went through my neutrals. And so I have some options here you can see, you know, kind of narrowing it down. And sometimes it's helpful just to go out and pull out your paper and see what it is. I could go more brown, and that usually would work well. I was a little bit more in the chamois yellow color. You guys remember chamois? It's not quite so bright. Would work well. This one, I think maybe a French vanilla, so it's a little less yellow. This one is a neutral, and I won't lie, you guys know I usually know my paper, but this one came out of like a paper buffet. So I think, is this out of Divine? It has rings on the back. I'm sure someone on here knows. So the front of it is just kind of a neutral wash. I always say neutral, a light beige wash. The back of it is rings. So it didn't get put away after my paper buffet, so it's just in a random pile. But I also had this sheet. I think this is my BYU. So this is a 10 by 12 sheet. I think it came out of like Memoirs and Memories pack or whatever that one pack was. And I thought that it would give me a little bit of a design and complement that print. And so I think I'm going to make it with these. And then I have these also for cardstock mats or something. I can choose one of them. So that's how I chose my paper for this. We're going to make a couple of cuts with the trimmer and then one cut with the decorative trimmer. I have to talk about the paper because this really is a really easy layout to make. On the handout, I gave you the measurements for each piece. So for the bottom print, I need 3 inches. And I need 2 of those because I have enough pictures to do 2 sides. And then for whatever I'm going to put on top of it, which is the green, I need 2.5 inches. You can choose this here before you cut. You can also choose if you want your print on top or do you want your print on the bottom and cardstock on top. I felt like if I put the print on the bottom here, you're not going to see enough of it. The stripes, it was easy to have on the bottom because the stripe's a stripe. You can see that the whole way. But if you really do have kind of an icon print, I felt like it was going to get buried. So I'm going to see what it looks like with the print on top. Which means I actually just cut these wrong because I really need my print to be the 2.5 inches and my cardstock to be the 3 inches. So I'm going to recut these. And now I have little 1/2 inch strips I can use either on this layout or something else. So whatever's going on top is the 2.5 inches. And then 3 inches for the base. You also have the option too of using a decorative blade if you want to fancy up your edges. It is so subtle on mine. I don't even think that you can probably see it, but I use the wave blade on the edges of the top strip. And I used it here on the edge of the 4x8. So we have a variety of blades to choose from. Deco, Victorian are good ones. The wave is a good one. If you use the scallop or the stamping, you do have to make sure you know what direction your blade's going. I think I'm going to pull out my good friend Victorian. And you could cut this before or after. So you can cut your 2.5 inches so you're confident in that, or you can cut them to start with your decorative blade. If you cut them straight, you can just go ahead and give them a decorative cut. Sometimes we're not quite sure of decisions as we go. And if you cut your paper and then you decide when to use a blade, you can. It's going to make it a little bit thinner than the 2.5, which is completely fine. If you are cutting after it's cut, I usually line up my paper on the other dotted line, and that gives me just enough to get that decorative edge in there. Then I need to use my wave trimmer. So we have the wave edge and we have the swell edge. When I cut mine, I actually flipped it upside down because I was using the swell edge over here. It's just easier for me to see lining up. And I want to cut this piece in half. So you can orient, if you cut with the decorative blade to start, you should have about 1.25 inches would be your half mark. If you cut it after like I did, you're probably down to about 1 1/8. You are coming off the edge just a little bit. You got to get your fingers on here, which is why I'm right-handed, so I'll cut with the right side, so it's easier for me to hold it here. I cut mine straight down the middle. It's going to mean that one actually looks a little bit bigger than the other because of the point of the waves are going to be over here. I did not center mine. In some designs we center it. The centering was a big deal to me. I actually kind of liked it a little bit off, so it's not so symmetrical because we're just splitting this apart. So it doesn't matter on the trimmer where you cut it. I'm doing two, like I said, because I do have a two-page layout. And I'm going to piece these together. I'm just going to give them a little bit of space and adhere them down so I can see the nice texture of my blade and I see the pop of color through my wave. Depending on the pieces you cut, whether you used a blade or not, one option, if you like the backside, is you could offset the layer. You could center them down the middle so that you can show both sides of your paper. The paper I used in the demo, I did not care for the look of the other side with it on top of the stripes, but this one would work fine if I had the neutral and the print. You could play around, just see what you like best. Maybe decide you like the other. You could offset your wave. You're going to have a wave that gets a little bit bigger and skinnier. Just decide, what do you like best and then adhere them. It's always helpful to use the 13 by 13 mat. Probably do it without my base paper in the way. I usually line it up, or you could use a T-ruler. The most important thing for me is I'm just looking at the bottom. Where am I starting? I don't want that side, but I'm going to adhere mine about 1/4 inch from the edge. Using repositional tape means I can readjust it if I don't like it. Well, 1/4 inch off this side. Just before I tape it, I'm just looking at my, I keep saying a wave. It really is a swell. The wave is the bumpier one. It is a wave. It's just a looser wave. I have one done and adhere the other. I haven't seen any bees or ladybugs yet, but I did see some ants. So the ants are reemerging. A couple of them made their way in here, and I don't know why. It's finally nice outside, why they want to come inside. So I have that right. So I got to decide, am I still confident in the paper I want here? So I'm going to do a 4x8 section. I'm going to cut one side with the decorative blade and the other side with the wave. So if you weren't confident of your choice, sometimes it helps to have some of the pieces put together and see if you still like it. I still like my choice. So I need two 4x8 sections. I have to make sure I flip back to the straight blade. I'm gonna go ahead and cut the 8 inches first. And then 4. I do have a spot on this paper. I think it's some adhesive or something. I don't know. It was stuck to another. You can probably see that little dark mark. I'm gonna have to cover that up with picture or journaling or a sticker. I might too. And then you can decide, I could have cut it just then with the blade. Sometimes it helps me to just go, one step at a time. If you want one edge of it to be decorative, you can do that either when you cut it originally or cut it now. And then I want to give them each a little bit of a swell. And I want just enough paper to get the swell. I don't really want to cut off too much length. So you can line it up top or bottom in the center, wherever you want it. You just want to be consistent. I think I can have a little 1/8 mark. I'm lining it up too, just so that I know, when I cut the second one. This could be turned horizontal or you can do it vertical. I think I should have cut it longer than 8 inches. I swear my other one was 8. I must have been like 9. I think I measured that wrong. So this is going to be short. So I have a couple of options. I can recut it with a different paper because it's going to look weird if my border's all the way over here, or not. I could, if I left it here, so I have a couple options. If you already cut yours and it's short and you want it to be wider, you could punch something else, like an edge style, and layer another border behind it. Or you could just leave it shifted over and just have it open at the end. It's just going to look more like a larger mat. Or you could cut it more at 9 inches and it will have a little bit more space. I apologize for that. So what happens when you do power hour at 10 o'clock the night before? So if I left it like this, it's just going to look like a large piece of mat. And if 9 inches is too long, it's fine because you're going to overlap it here. You just want enough to get to the corner and then underneath your border at some point. And then I'm looking to see if I don't really have too many vertical photos, but I have some that can cut down shorter. So when I get my photos on here and trim down, I could cover that up. I think it would be fine too. And then I could cut another one for here. I have plenty of photos to fill the full page. I'm going to adhere it down about 1/2 inch off the edge, however much buffer you want to have. This one I would adhere pretty close to the bottom just so you have more room at the top. I'm not going to adhere it because I'm going to take a picture both ways. So while Megan's going, I'll recut it to 9 inches and then I'll take my photo both ways so you can see where I could add more yellow. And yeah, that's Jenny's right too. The other thing, if I know I'm going to cover some of this with the photos, I could cut it down the middle and like shift it over. And if I want to do that, maybe I'd go a little higher and then cut it down the center and push part of it over there. So maybe I'll do that. That's a good suggestion. Thank you. So I'll decide exactly where I'm gonna put my photos and I'll just cut it and split. between the two. And then to add a little bit border at the bottom, depending. So in my example, I used one of the laser borders. I feel like with some of these collections, we have so many choices. With the NSD, we did have some laser borders also. So I have a couple of options. I could see, how I like the photos. You could do, I would suggest maybe something thin, like a chain. Some of the old ones we've had, like dancing daisies, some of the more delicate ones. Or you could go something a little bit fatter. Or I had some of these pre-cut. The honeycomb was, I had scraps of that. You could layer on top or you can layer underneath. And run it along just under where you want your photos to be. I know I can trim him down. So you guys know I don't usually trim the photos until I get to the actual page because I will try to trim them the same. Like these, I could trim the same. I can easily cut out a little bit more than an inch and make those the same. This one will need to stay 4x6. Maybe I'll stack a couple over here. And then maybe I could find another one I can fit down here, or I could choose to journal right here or put a title or something. So they have, I have my leftover stickers. I have some spring medley stickers to choose from, choose something in there. So I will work on piecing that together, and I will adjust the handout so that anyone that is printing tomorrow knows 9 inches will cover the full width for that. So pretty simple, could be done fast. And then we can talk about how to fix some mistakes. All right, I'll let you go. We'll give you your full 29 minutes.
My full 29 minutes. Thanks. I appreciate that. So as Tessa mentioned, I am Meggan Jax out in just north of Seattle, Washington. And so for today's layout, I used a spring or the birds and blossoms because like I said, it was open. And so I thought it'd be fun to play with it a little bit. So let me go ahead, switch over to my overhead camera, and I will show you what we're going to be doing tonight. So tonight's layout, I'm going to be doing some lacrosse pages because I'm in lacrosse season now. The games have officially started, though I don't have photos ready. I will admit the past 2 games, the weather was not ideal, otherwise known as Meggan was freezing, and so I really didn't try very hard to take pictures. So here's the layout that we're putting together. You can see here with the birds and blossoms, I have a tonal background. This orange or the peachy orangey color you see is the background page. I built everything on top of it, choosing 3 different patterns of paper that complement it. I did use one of them to be that decorative paper with has the multiple colors in it. And then I chose 2 tonals to complement either side of that, so that it kind of just framed in that the more the statement print here. And then, of course, with the circles here, I did use some cardstock. I used canary cardstock, which does really work nicely with the birds and blossoms. And then I took a 12-inch border, cut it in half, and put it at the top and the bottom. The photos, there's room for 4 photos on here, depending how small you want to cut the circles. You can make this circle here bigger if you wanted to. Over here, I just decided to make it more of an embellishment cluster, cutting out one of the mats as in place of a photo, and then coming in with those additional details to bring in, more of the orange butterflies and so forth. So for my demo layout tonight, as I mentioned, I'm going to be doing lacrosse, preparing for lacrosse photos. And my son's team is blue, black, and kind of gray. So it's like light blue, regular blue, not really navy, black, and you could like work in some silver gray colors if I wanted to. So I went in and I pulled out some papers out of the Totally Tonal Blue paper pack, and I've got some black cardstock. So my background piece is going to be this one that I show light. It's white with the blue flecks on it. However, I might actually use the opposite side. I don't know yet. once I get pieces cut, I will make that determination. So this piece here is going to be my background. I'm just not sure which side I'm going to use. I'm going to set that to the side for the moment. And then the rays that kind of come out of the opposite corners here, I am going to be using the two different patterns here. I've got one of the patterns kind of has a diamond or a square, interlocking squares, and the other one is more of just a tonal mid blue. I do like that they contrast to each other. You can see a contrast between them, but I am going to use, let's see, they're going to go, this is going to be my bigger piece. So when we look at here, this mid-tone blue is actually going to be the same location as the blue in the sample. Where I use the statement print here, I'm actually going to use black cardstock. So that's going to be, I'll need a 6x6 piece of black cardstock. And then this piece here, I am going to use just one little 2x6 piece of it. You may be able to use scraps. What I did, the original Birds and Blossom layout, I used all of those colors down here at the bottom were just done as part of scraps. So I had a bunch of pieces left over, I think, from Scrapbook Live last week. So I used scraps for those. So to get started, we are going to take our 3 pieces of paper here that we're going to use to make the rays, and we're going to cut them down so that they coordinate with the measurements given in step 1. So whatever you want to correspond to your larger array, this is as shown in blue on the sample, it needs to be 12 inches wide by 6 inches tall. The middle ray, which is the flower paper in the sample, is a 6x6. For me, that'll be the black. And then we need a 2x6 piece of paper to where you see the green. That's just a 2x6, and I'm going to do it out of this piece here. I could have tried to use the backside of these prints, but they really didn't work for what I wanted. The print's not quite what I was looking for. So I'm going to start off here by cutting a 6x12. So come over here, line it up at 6 inches, cut that. I'm going to cut all of my big pieces down to the small pieces first. So here's my 6x12. My black needs to be 6x6. So I didn't have any scraps of black that were big enough. So I'm going to have to start with a fresh sheet. I am going to be using the black for some mats. So I'll just keep the black close by. Here's a 6x6 square. My remnants, my scraps are going over where I can just come back with my custom cutting system, the circles, and cut those out. So here's my 6x6. And now I need that 2x6 of this paper. My paper is non-directional. So I will tell you when you're doing these, if you do have a direction, your piece here needs to be horizontal, meaning this would be the top of your paper, the top edge. If you have trees or hearts or something like that, you want to make sure that that was the top edge. Probably should have told you that beforehand. The 6x6 doesn't matter. We can rotate that depending on how we need to cut it. And this paper here is, I don't have a direction. It's can go either direction. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut a 2-inch wide strip. Rotate it and then cut it 6 inches. So here are my 3 pieces that I show you in step 1. We have the 2x6, the 6x6, and the 12 wide by 6 tall. So the first piece we're going to go ahead, well, and in step 2, I show you that we're going to cut all of them from the bottom left corner up to the upper right. When they're all in this orientation, you can see this piece is very vertical. We're going to cut it from the lower left to the upper right. The square doesn't matter so much, but for my particular piece, because it's just a piece of cardstock, I'm just going to cut it on the diagonal, going from lower left to upper right. This piece here, you want to make sure this is the top edge. You want to cut from the lower left to the upper right. So we're going to start with the 12x6 piece first, and I'm going to tell you it's a little hard to cut with your 12-inch trimmer, I do think I put the kind of the quote, or I thought I listed it as a pro tip, but I just say a tip. You're going to probably want to cut this if you do have a if you have an 18-inch ruler. That's going to be the easiest way to cut it. You could draw, you can get it in your trimmer. You just see here that it is spilling over. We're going to have a little bit of a wrinkle there when you put the trimmer down, and up here is not too bad. You could probably get that in there. It will not, it more than likely will not cut end to end. You'll need to come in with scissors and release the end points. So you can try that with your rotary trimmer. I have an 18-inch ruler and a rotary trimmer. If you only have the 18-inch ruler, you can just draw a circle or draw a pencil line. So before I do any of this cutting, I want to just double check I'm cutting from this corner up to this corner here. So maybe depending on how you are, I know I'm not going to actually cut this way with my rotary trimmer because I'm right-handed and it's not going to go right for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take a piece of Post-it note. I really need to get like those flags, like the little like Post-it note flags that I could just flag on here. I want to cut from this corner to this corner. I'm just flagging my corners so that when I rotate my paper, I keep track of my direction. That's what I'm really wanting to do, is I'm wanting to make sure I'm keeping track of my direction. So now I can just come in here. I'll be able to put my trimmer on, my thing on. I will go ahead and I'm going to move these flags out of the way, line up my ruler, and I've got my rotary trimmer, and I can go ahead and cut. If you need to, if you don't have the rotary trimmer, maybe you just have the ruler or a ruler, you could just go ahead and mark it with a pencil and cut with scissors, or you could use your trimmer. I just like the rotary trimmer. Honestly, guys, this is, if you don't have this with the handheld rotary trimmer, it is a fun little thing to have, because see how nicely you can actually cut full 12 by 12s on the diagonal rather than having to fold your paper in half. So that's just my, if we talked about it before, I know I've shown other things with it, but it's a good investment. All right, so there we go. We got the 12-inch piece cut. So now I'm going to set that to the side. I can come back to my other pieces. Again, I want to make sure I am cutting from the lower left to the upper right. My black cardstock does not matter. If you have a pattern to your paper, you want to make sure this is your top edge, cutting lower left to upper right. This will easily fit in the trimmer. The next two pieces easily fit in the rotary trimmer. And here I've got my flags. Lower left, remember the 2x6 piece needs to be in the vertical position, lower left to upper right. There we go. Now this is where I need, the next step is we're starting to start assembly. This one goes together. Once you have those pieces cut, it goes together pretty quickly. I just need to make the determination if I'm using the white or I'm going to use the tonal blue side. So I'm going to come in here, lay my pieces down. If you double the pieces, you can make a 2-page layout. You might need to kind of visualize if you want it to be like up and then down, because if you just duplicate it, it's going to be too like going the same direction. However, even if you rotate it around, it's going to be the same thing. You would need to, if you want to double the layout and have it be, like go either like this, or they could go the other way, you're going to need to reverse those cuts that I told you to do. The cuts would go the opposite direction. And then the pieces get laid on here. And as you're going to see, we are going to start layering up in this corner. So if you're really wanting to conserve paper, you could punch some things out of this corner if you want. You could trim the paper down. I decided not to because I was worried about trimming it wrong and then having a gap. But you can see we've got some layers that you could easily punch some pieces out of if you need to, if you want some, you know, use up, be a little more conservative with your paper usage. And then here, layering on that final. So here, I like how this looks like the black in there. It's nice. And then coming in with some circles. What I am going to do before I adhere things down, I know I want to use black circles for my layout. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is cut those circles. I'm just going to cut the three circles, the three main circles for now. And what that's going to let me do is I'm going to can see how everything looks before I decide whether I'm going that tonal blue or I'm going the black. I want to see how the mattes are going to pop on there because it might be just fine with the white, providing that contrast. So really what I'd be looking for is going that full range of light colors all the way to the dark colors. That could be sometimes really nice in a layout. If I stick with the tonal side with the blue, I'm going to not have the light colors. And to be honest with you, like the two games that we played that I took pictures of, it was kind of like a cloudy, miserable day. So it might be nice to have some bright lightness to the layout itself. So I'm just going to move this off to the side for a moment so that I can come back here to my cutting mat, and I'm going to go ahead and cut my, I'm going to cut those larger mats. And in the layout here, I tell you that you need 3 mats. You're going to use custom cutting systems, circle number 1. Remember, Tessa and I talk about our circles with number 1 being the smallest, number 2 is the middle size, and number 3 is the largest. So when we talk about circle number 1, we mean the smallest circle, and you can label them. Use a Sharpie, label them so you don't forget. Same thing for the ovals. The oval number 1 is the smallest oval. There's 4 of them, so it goes up to oval number 4 is the largest oval. Okay, so we have this, and we need to get 3 circles, but we're going to use, because we're making them matte, we're going to use the blue blade on the outside track. That will let us cut the biggest circle that we can usually get from our photos is circle number 1 with the red blade, because that's really close to just slightly smaller than a 4-inch diameter circle. So if you're cutting a photo, a 4x6, this is the combination you need here. The red blade, circle number 1, outside track, that gets you the most that you can off of a 4x6 photo. So if I want to mat that, and I want a chunky mat, which I want in this case, I'm going to use the blue blade, which is going to give me that 1/4 inch of a mat all the way around the circle. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut as close as I can. I have a 6x12-inch piece here. You may have a scrap of whatever size you're going to use. I am going to go ahead and cut do the first one. I think if I come in here and I'm going to try to do one down here, let me show you where I cut the first one. Here's the first one. Oh my gosh, it needs to come there. It'll come out. Because I think, well, no, I'm not gonna be able to get, I can't get all 3. I'm not gonna be able to get all 3 in here because they are 4.5. They're close to 4.5 inches wide. So I will just cut 2 for now. I'm gonna come back to that 6-inch scrap that I have. I'll save this because if I do need some smaller pieces, if I want some accent pieces, sometimes since I'm using sport photos, Cody's a little bit far away in the photo, so I can come in with my custom cutting system, maybe the circle number 2, wherever it may be. Oh, here it is. Circle number 2, the inside circle here, it's kind of fun to use if you want to get really tight on some of those photos, or even using the 1.75" our circle punch. Is also fun to just punch out some photos, especially like I said, the sport photos or maybe theater photos or things where they're really far away in the distance, but you just want to get little, small photos to include a few more things. You can use a custom cutting system for that, and I'll be able to come in and make some maps. So I'm going to do one more of the 4.5 inch. This is my 6x6 remnant, and I'll go ahead and grab one more out of this. And I think I messed that up, but I think I'm gonna be okay. I got too close to the edge and I'm flat. However, you can see here, they're all overlapping each other. The circles all kind of overlap. And so I'll just, that edge that I messed up cutting, I'll just make sure it's where they touch. Okay, so now that I have some mats cut to get an idea of how the mats are gonna look, I come back to my original layout. This is where I like my scrap easel, and I could have had everything magneted down. And we just kind of overlap. They need to overlap just a little bit, I think, to get all 3 circles on there. And you don't have to use circles. You could use squares. If the circles aren't really your thing, you could use squares. You are probably going to have to go more closer to 3.75 inch squares to be able to get them, because remember, 4x4, unless you do overlap them, 4x4 is going to be, they take up the whole thing. You could stagger them, but it's going to be very tight. Circles are nice because they just give us a little bit more room around. When you take a square and you basically turn it into a circle, you give yourself a lot more space around. So there is with the white. Now the tonal blue, let's see what that looks like. And I kind of wish I did have photos to be able to actually see the gray. There's gray sky in the photos, just remember. So here's how the triangles go together. You have the larger triangles first. They go down first. Remember, we cut everything from the lower left to the upper right. They get separated. Next, we're going to put on the 6x6, cut in the same direction. And then we have our 2x6s. Again, it was 2 inches wide, 6 inches tall. We cut it lower left to upper right, and those get separated. I am pretty certain I'm going to go with the lighter. I think I like the lighter. Yeah, I'm going to do the lighter color, I think, of the background. I think this is going to get, when you don't have a lot of contrast between the things, when you do, like, you're working with all midtones, here's what I'd say, it gets muddied. It just gets, sometimes that works great, that your photos are really light and airy and you're okay with that. But I want a little bit more contrast between my color range, meaning I want that lighter tone to come through. So I'm going to go ahead and use the lighter side. And then I'll be able to start adhering things as well. We do have a very, kind of that long, narrow tip here. So I want to make sure that I put plenty of adhesive here. I want to get that nice and secure. So I'm going to put the repo adhesive here, and then I can come in and use repo or regular adhesive along the other areas as well. Assembly should go together pretty good. Everything just gets kind of anchored into those corners. And they overlap. As I mentioned, you might want to take the time and punch out, instead of, I had some this blue, I could have punched some things out of there if I wanted to. I'm not so concerned about it. I will admit, I wish I'd bought a couple more packs of this Totally Tonal Blue. Kind of came and went a little faster than I was expecting. I think I have plenty of the avocado. So wasn't that right? Like Tessa, I had like 5 million. I made Tessa bring me 2 packs of avocado because I thought I had them, but or I thought I was out, but I wasn't. She's like, you had like 9 packs. I'm not organized.
You guys, it would drive you crazy. She's like, has all her paper packs when nothing's by each other. She's just like this random. I had to put all the cardstock in rainbow order. I couldn't even get through all of them. I just had to walk away. I just did some of them because I know
Well,
she's
so
gonna
the
maintain it.
the challenge I run into is I do not have all of my inventory in one location. And so my cardstock packs of paper were separated from each other, meaning current line stuff was in one area, and then other miscellaneous cardstock buffet stuff is in another area. And I know where things are, but Tessa did not know where things were. And so, yeah, I am hoping that when I relocate to Arizona, that I will be able to have a more cohesive, organized inventory setup like she does. Because I know her house is the epitome of organization.
Yeah, I mean, there is room for improvement. I don't have space. I'm happy to fly out and help you put it all in the right spot.
I know, and you're going to want to come out in July when I'm doing it, right? That's going to be when it's perfect time of year to come visit Arizona.
Or February.
February, I'm going to be busy. In February, you're not going to want to be indoors organizing my scrapbooking stuff. You're going to be like hiking around the mountains and everything, or looking for birds.
Are there a lot of birds in Arizona?
There's
Some.
some. I mean, I don't know. There was these really annoying birds that used to live outside the window of our old house, and I would have to, want to beat them. So yeah, I have I see somebody mentioning, yes, I am relocating to Arizona. So I used to live in Arizona. In fact, my husband and I, we moved out there originally in 98 before we were married. And then we got married in Arizona, had kids in Arizona. And then in 2015, we relocated to Washington State for his job. And we have kind of been missing Arizona. Arizona just feels like home to us. And so we were waiting until our middle child graduated high school, which is this summer, this June, and then we will be relocating. So we are visiting Arizona at the beginning of April for our spring break. We're going to look for houses or a house. We will see. We're getting ready to sell our house and so forth. So here we go. Here's what we got so far. I'm going to tack these into place with just a little bit of repo adhesive, just so that they don't go flying all around. I'm looking for kind of a even overlap. It'll be a little bit easier once I have photos on there to make sure that the matting is even. And now one of the details I had was some additional photos. Like I said, for my sample, let me bring that back out so we can take a peek at it again. For my sample, I ended up going with slightly smaller circles. They're smaller enough that you definitely note the difference between the two sizes. That was kind of the big thing. I used the circle number 3. I used the inside track first, cutting the mats with the red blade. The photos would be cut with the the blue blade on the inside of circle number 3. Now, if you want more of your photos, or you're thinking, well, Meggan, I can't get my photos that small. What you would be able to do is go ahead and either make more of the same size circles. So you would just, have some bigger mats with bigger photos. Or if you said, well, I can get them slightly smaller, you can actually cut your mats with circle number 1, red blade outside track. Gives you a 4-inch, about 4-inch wide mat. And then you can use the inside track of the circle number 3 with the red blade, and that will get you it's about 3 3/4. Well, no, it's about 3.5. I don't know. It's whatever size that works well with this one cut as a mat. So you can play around with them a little bit. That's the part I'm not sure of. I know I will have some that come in here with the larger ones, but I might sprinkle in some different sizes, um, to see what works once I have the photos. It really depends on how many photos I have, whether I'm going to expand to 2 pages or I'm going to keep it as 1 page and just put more photos on there. The other item I wanted to do here is I want to come across the top and the bottom with a border. And because I use this chunky, or excuse me, the square border here, I actually thought it might be fun to use mirrored triangles. And to be honest with you, I don't have even though it's sporty, it's lacrosse, I am not so worried about making sure everything is completely lacrosse oriented because I don't have a lot of stuff to work with lacrosse. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go ahead, punch a 12-inch length of the black with the mirrored triangles. I could use something like stars or something would be fine because it's the stars kind of sporty. But why not mirrored triangle? So then what I'll do here is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to find my middle. I just need to find out where it is. It's this one right here. I can see it there. And I'm going to cut it in half. Then what I'm going to do is because I don't want to have an open end like this. See how that's an open end there? I'm going to go ahead and cut off. And then I think I'll leave it like such. And then we'll do the same thing on the other piece, just square it off. And I think that's kind of going to be how it goes here. So we'll put some repo adhesive on. And then that is going to be, I think, wrapping up this layout until I actually have my photos. And then I'll be able to come in with the additional details for this layout. All right. So I think that let me switch over here to my face. There we go. So I don't know if anybody has any questions specific really related to the layout. I did see a question as I was getting started asking about, they're asking about if we're going to have a page makers. So Creative Memories, last spring, they had, when we did what was that one called last year? Paint a Garden. They had a tonal paper and a designer paper. And this year they did not do that. They just did a single pack of paper. So typically what we do is we wait until they have 2 packs of paper to go with the collection. They really haven't given us 2 packs of paper, right, Tessa? I think This Life had 2 packs of paper, but I don't know. So we'll see. We're still talking about it. And also I've kind of ruined Tessa's life in that because I don't know, we've just been busy. I think both of us have been very busy with things.
I think
And
the
so
answer is no, we're not doing spring page makers.
we will not have a spring page makers. We will have we have our next week. Next Thursday is our National Scrapbook Day class. It's a free workshop to do the projects that are included with the customer kit on the National Scrapbook Day. So that is really between that one and some Birds and Blossoms ideas, you'll probably be all set to go for your spring photos. So I do see a question, Debbie, asking what size are the 3 circles? Those are all listed in the handout. That's probably the easiest way to describe them there. It's under finishing the layout that they tell you what sizes to use. Now, are you asking for actual measurements? I do not have the measurements on there because when we were working with the custom cutting system, we just don't usually use measurements. And so if you're using another measurement, you're going to want to start with like a 4-inch circle. Well, I can tell you it's about a 4-inch circle for the photo and a 4.5-inch circle for the mat. and just start there with your photos. You want to just cut whatever size you can cut for your photos, and then go ahead and cut a mat about a half an inch bigger in terms of your diameter for your for the mats.
Thank you.
So, Tessa, did we ever draw a February Power Hour winner?
I don't know.
Tessa's going to look into that. We will give you till the end of the month to share your layouts made from these ideas. You'll see the hashtag is on the handout. So it's March 2024 PH. If you want to use that hashtag when you share your layouts in the ideas and inspiration group, that is a great way for us to be able to keep track of them. It's also how we go back and draw names for those. Next up, we have, what else is coming up? I mean, we're already in March. We will be doing, we just wrapped up, or we're wrapping up right now, Winter Frolic. So those of you who are in Winter Frolic, you still have until the 15th, which is this Friday, to go ahead, finish any layouts, get these ones done. That goes towards your page completion and all that stuff. So we will be getting ready to start registration probably another month from now for summer scrap, which will start around the 1st of June. It goes June and July. And so that will be coming up. We do know we're going to be doing that one. And then there might be some kind of a page makers class coming up. It really just depends on what Creative Memories is going to be releasing. I feel like there was one other question that somebody had. I'm just going to scroll up here really fast. Let's see, there was one because page makers. Oh, beginning scrapbooking. That was it. Somebody asked about beginning scrapbooking. I have to talk to Tessa, but yes, we will probably have a beginning scrapbooking class because I need to have a couple of beginning classes for my stuff. And so does Tessa. We do enjoy getting back to basics with those classes. So look for that. It probably will not happen until maybe the beginning of May, though. Typically, we were scheduling those about the first Tuesday of the month. However, the first Tuesday of April is both of our spring break. And what's really great is Tessa's going to come out to Washington. She's going to cat sit for me while I go to Arizona and gallivant around the desert. So that'll be a lot of fun. She's bringing her kids out here. They're going to stay at our house and then she's going to take them to go do some stuff for Boeing because Cooper really enjoys flight stuff. They're going to do maybe some hiking, go do, the Seattle touristy things. All the while she gets to come home at the end of the day and she gets to cuddle with Kitty. So Kitty is super excited about it. She really likes Tessa. To be fair, she loves everybody, but I think she really does feel an affinity with Tessa. I think maybe she has a small crush on how like maybe Max or Gray Kitty smells. So something like that.
Do you have that many people come over though?
We had a lady come over today from a handyman service to give us a quote on some stuff. And my Kitty just flopped at her feet. She's like, pet me. She's like, will you pet me? Because these people don't pet me. We pet her, people. We do. We really, really do. Sometimes we just pet her with our foot because she literally just like flops on the floor. And I'm like, cat, I can't bend over that much that often. Like, so, but she is very, very friendly. So
yeah, I'm gonna have to pay my cat sitter to come watch her cat, but it comes with a free and a car, which is worth hundreds of dollars. So.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm telling you right now, if I'm looking at what's going to cost me to rent a car in Arizona, my goodness, that trip, just flying to Phoenix in spring break was ridiculous. But I'm going to a baseball game. I can't even tell you how excited I am going to a baseball game. So we don't have a date yet for Power Hour for April. We're going to probably try to squeeze that in. I don't know if we'll do it before we go to, Tess and I are also going to Mexico. And so we're going to be sick of each other by the time April's over with. And but we'll some point do Power Hour in there. She and I will decide that date. I do see a question regarding do we have registration open for NSD? Yes, it is open. It is if you go to meggandtessa.com, it is there to register. It's a free class, but you do need to register. Unlike Power Hour, where we automatically just send you the handouts every month, for NSD, you do need to register. We'll have a separate Zoom, all that kind of stuff. So if you want to be able to participate with us and join in, we will definitely have that. Do register. But like I said, it's free. And if you can't watch, it's a daytime one. It's next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. So it will be available for you later that afternoon, or by the next day, we'll have the recording to you. So by next weekend, you'll be all set to put together those NSD layouts. So Tess and I are going
You don't have
to,
your set yet. You need to order it like now if you
oh
want to.
yeah, if you don't have it, if you have not already ordered your National Scrapbook Day stuff, you're going to want to order it. You just need the customer bundle. It has everything that you need in there. You could order the mushroom punch, what's it's forest mushroom, that's the name of it, is not required for the layout, but if you want to, if you like it, we'll probably incorporate it in some places. Otherwise, you could use just another type of botanical or whatever punch that goes along with the theme. And Tessa and I are going to Creative Memories had an incentive trip that Tessa and I and about 100 other Creative Memories advisors earned. We're going to Puerto Vallarta. So we're going back to Puerto Vallarta. We're going to be staying on the south side of Puerto Vallarta this time. Last year we were north of Puerto Vallarta near Bucerias. This time we're going to be south of town a little bit at the Hilton, I believe it is. And so we are looking forward. I have 2 new bathing suits. I'm excited. So I know it's hard to get excited about bathing suits, but I am this time. So we will see. It should be good. I'm excited to sit on the beach and do nothing. Tessa's going to be like, let's go do something. Nope, I'm not leaving. I'm staying right here.
I might make it. I mean, last time I made her do, I want to say not skydiving, parasailing.
Not doing that again.
That was fun. If you haven't seen that video, go to our YouTube where Power Hour is and scroll back to last year, because I spent all day on the beach one day making a video about
She did.
trip. And it's
She
really
did.
good.
If you're going to Mexico ever, or you ever decide you want to do the thing, message me. I'm not going to tell you not to do it. I'm just going to give you a small bit of advice on the time of day to do it. Morning, do it in the morning. You don't want it to be super windy. And yeah, so it was great. I think it's going to be a fantastic trip. We are looking forward to. I am looking forward to. I think last year when we were there, there's supposed to be a Thursday evening street market artisan something or other. Last year when we were there, it ended at the end of April. We didn't go till May, so we missed it. But this time when we're there, we should be able to go. I think that's going to be pretty awesome to be able to go see all of the local artisans that have things. I was hoping to get something for one of my kids last year, but I didn't see what I wanted. So yeah, Jenny, it was fun. I thankfully did not drop my phone in the ocean, but I tried real hard. So, okay. Thanks for joining us tonight. Like I said, you have until the end of the month to post these. There's the hashtag on the handouts. And if you have any questions, send us a message. I do see Kathy asking about the video. It is on our Meggan and Tessa YouTube channel. I'm not sure where it is out there. Tessa may even be
Just scroll back to last
Yeah,
May.
you'll find it. I mean, we don't have that many things shared on that thing, but you just scroll back and I mean, maybe, I don't know if it's searchable even. Meggan and Tessa do Mexico.
Meggan Tessa Mexico. I'm gonna watch after we hang up because I like the song.
Yeah, Tessa likes the song. It was pretty fun. Okay, take care, everybody. We will see you next month for sure, but we'll have some communication between now and then on all sorts of fun things. Have a great evening and a wonderful rest of your week.